So this is PR evil? Yes, PR is evil, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to save it. Okay? So I guess I've backpedaled a little bit, but you'll forgive me, right? So, you know that culture is my main interest. And so when I look at something, one of the first things I do is try to interpret where is this thing, whatever the thing may be, where is it in the culture? And right now, I think that PR is dealing with a overt culture of shame. And so I think many years ago in literary studies, there was a famous article by a literary theorist named Stanley Fish. And what was it again? Is there an author in this text? It was talking about the relationship between what a text says and the way that an audience interprets the text. And so my question was for public relations, is there a discipline in this profession? Okay, and that's something that I want you to think about. There's a difference between something that's considered a profession and something that's considered a discipline. And even though public relations has been around for, in realistic terms in the United States, for about 130, 140 years, I'm still not sure that we've achieved discipline status yet. And so, actually, I say shame on you, public relations, and shame on all of us, former practitioners, educators, for not working harder to establish that. And I'll try to back that up in my remarks. I was thinking about evil, so what are some other words for evil? And think about these terms. Does PR fit in here anywhere? Wicked, atrocious, grievous, monstrous, bad, dark, sinister, corrupt, pervasive, demonic, diabolical, fiendish, hellish, infernal, satanic, unholy, despicable, ugly, vile, slimy, unworthy, worthless, wretched, devilish, diabolical, Mephistophean, evil-minded. How many of us have used those words? I've used those words just about every time I have to interact with a corporation, but that's maybe betraying my own. I think that PR is evil. I do think there's hope. And I think that PR is evil for the things that it doesn't do as much as the things that it does do. Okay? So it's easy to pick on big corporate disasters. And I'll pick on a big corporate disaster in a minute. But it's a little more difficult to say, why doesn't PR take a harder stand against practitioners, the PR industry, take a harder line against practitioners who do unethical behavior? Okay? Why does PR not work harder to alleviate the negative view of the field? Okay? When I was at the University of South Florida, I had what I call the Sex and the City syndrome. 80% of the undergrads that I taught thought that they wanted to be Samantha from Sex and the City. Now, how long does it take you to realize that if this is your career path, a major in PR is not going to get you there? Okay? It's a disservice. If Thank You for Not Smoking and Sex and the City are the kind of most general perceptions, or the movie Wag the Dog, if these cultural perceptions are the most kind of pervasive way that society interprets this field, then the field is doing something wrong. The most egregious thing I have against PR is that it has not honestly, ethically, and enthusiastically battled the gender gap. Okay? It's easy to say, oh, there's no glass ceiling, there's no gender gap, until you actually go out and work in the field. And you see it, okay? And you feel it, because you're sitting here, male or female, knowing that you make more or less money than the person in the next cube who's doing the exact same amount of work, but is making a different amount of money because they are male or female. Okay? This is the kind of stand that I think a discipline makes, but we're so worried about creating, little robots who can write really well and put out the perfect press release that we don't worry about creating students who are ready to approach this field as a discipline.